Hi witches, welcome to June, and if you are new, welcome to my channel. Before we dive into today's video, I just want to give a super huge shout out to a bunch of new patrons who joined my Patreon over the last week. Thank you. A super huge thank you to Jen, to Clelia, to Shelby, to Margie, and Derek. So thank you guys so much. I hope you were able to catch our new moon live ritual that we had, I think Monday night actually. So if you were able to catch that, yay. If you watched the replay, thank you so much for watching, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, hi, no worries. So judging by what my future self is titling this, I can assume that anyone watching this video is probably at least interested in witchcraft, or just interested in at least learning more because maybe a loved one has expressed interest in this topic and you're just trying to learn more. Whatever has drawn you here, I'm so grateful that you are here, and we're gonna break down a couple key terms that are really integral to understanding what exactly this spirituality, this spiritual practice, the spiritual path is. So there is no judgment here. This is a safe space to ask questions. It is totally cool. I do not believe in stupid questions. I think they're just people who don't know, and that's okay. When referring to modern witchcraft and talking about witchcraft in the 21st century, there are three key terms that I think are really important to define before even moving into part of the research and learning about the foundations of witchcraft, which we will be going over this month, so stay tuned. I also have a ton of videos. Last year I did actually 366 videos, but I covered a lot of different topics, including some of the more basic ones. I will say at the beginning of last year, I was less confident in my public speaking, so by forcing myself to do this every day, I grew in that, I think. So you might find these videos a little bit more approachable, but I definitely know my past self, I was very nervous. I'm oh my gosh. But now it's just, it's fun. So we're just gonna hang out, we're gonna talk about witchcraft in a very non-judgmental, very beginner-friendly space. So let's dive in. There are three key terms that I think are really important to understand when you are starting your research or starting your journey in learning about witchcraft and learning about various spiritual paths that are out there. In my opinion, there are three key terms that one should be pretty familiar with before starting on their journey of learning about witchcraft and these various earth-based spiritual practices or paths. Those three terms are paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft. So let's start with the first word, paganism. What is that? What are we talking about? So a pagan is a person who holds religious beliefs that are not part of any of the world's main religions. Sometimes that word pagan, has been used in the past to kind of describe a person who didn't have specifically Christian beliefs. So, you might have heard oh, that godless pagan. That's a very commonly used historical term, I find. So it can be used to describe simply people who are not Christians, or depending on who you talk to, it might be used to describe anyone who doesn't practice Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, aka worshiping the God of Abraham. Now, I tend to stick to the first definition, a person who holds religious beliefs that are not part of any of the world's main religions, those religions being, of course, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Now, I love the term pagan when it comes to describing my own spiritual practice. I am a polytheist, meaning I worship many gods, and because they come from different pantheons, I consider myself an eclectic pagan. For you, in your path, you might be drawn to the Celtic pagan path and work solely with Celtic gods, or the Norse pagan path and work solely with Norse gods, etc., etc. So there are tons of open pantheons out there for you to explore, but that is another video for another day for sure. Now, when we're talking about witchcraft, a lot of people hear that word and might think of the religion of Wicca, or assume that all witches are Wiccans. And while most Wiccans do practice witchcraft and consider themselves witches, not all witches are Wiccans. So I personally do not practice the religion of Wicca. Now, what is Wicca? What are we even talking about? Well, Wicca is a religion that was founded by a man named Gerald Gardner in the mid-20th century. So the 1950s, 1960s, late 50s, early 60s, I should say. And it is influenced by pre-Christian beliefs and pagan beliefs of Western Europe. So Wicca is an earth-based spirituality that places a lot of importance on reverence towards nature and the natural worlds around us, as well as observing seasonal cycles, as well as the cycles of one's life. It It also features a god figure and a goddess figure that are worshipped together. You might also see these figures called the Lord and the Lady. Now finally, let's talk about the word that I've been using throughout this whole entire video, and that is the word witchcraft. Now, traditionally, witchcraft can be defined as the practice of magic, especially dark magic, and the use of spells. Now, in the modern context, witchcraft is defined as a spiritual practice involving magic or energy manipulation and affinity with nature, usually within a pagan tradition. Hi, okay, I am editing. Here are some cats for tax for interrupting our video. I do apologize. But I did notice that I didn't mention like something very fundamental, and that is that you can practice whatever religion you want and still be a witch. Or alternatively, no religion at all. Sorry, here's another cat. So if you are agnostic or perhaps atheist or just like don't want to work with any deities, you are not obligated to in order to be a witch. So not all witches work with deities, not all witches are Wiccans, so that by proxy means not all witches are pagans. So you can be non-religious. Those people who are non-religious tend to work with like the energies of the universe or the planet. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I very much encourage it. So to recap, pagans aren't necessarily Wiccans or witches inherently. They might be of a different religious belief that just isn't one of the main like world religions, right? Wiccans are pagans because it's a religion outside of those main five, and for the most part, I would say like 99.99999% of Wiccans also practice witchcraft, meaning that they can call themselves witches. Now, if you're like me, I'm an eclectic pagan and a hedge witch. So I'm a witch. I don't practice Wicca, but I do have religious or spiritual beliefs that are outside of the main like 5 religions. And also because I worship deities across a wide variety of pantheons, I am a polytheist. I would consider myself a pagan as well. So hope that clears things up. I know it's a little confusing sometimes. Witchcraft as a whole is not this evil thing. For me personally, and the way I have always experienced it, it has been an avenue for me to connect with the planet around me and for me to further my spiritual growth and further my growth as a human being. So I've been practicing witchcraft for about 12 years. It'll be 12 years in September. And throughout those 12 years, I've definitely grown a lot as a person, like my whole teenage years, I guess. Now I'm an adult. Wonderful. I really feel that without this spirituality, without this practice, I would have been really directionless. And it really gives me a great compass or a great way to relate to the world around me and to potentially help those around me and in my life. So if anything that we talked about today seems interesting to you, I really recommend doing your own research and looking further. Even if it's just a cursory Google search, sometimes you fall down a rabbit hole that's just absolutely wonderful. So with that, happy June. Welcome to my channel if this is your first video with me, and thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.